He promised her a better life, and the long-lost tenderness and affection between the old lovers rekindled. Once upon a time, in the village of Alamo, lived Adisa, a famous and fearless hunter, and his only son, Mosi. Mosi never knew his mother because she had died during childbirth. Adisa loved his wife deeply, and her death was a painful blow to him. He was so heartbroken that he had to stop hunting for several months. Gradually, Adisa healed from his wife's death. He decided not to remarry and instead focus on taking good care of Mosi, a promise he never broke. As Mosi grew, he followed in his father's footsteps. He became a skillful hunter, familiar with the forest tracks, animals' hideouts, and many other hunting skills. Adisa wasn't just hunting to feed his family or to sell meat. He was also the royal family's hunter. In Alamo, the king had a special hunter to provide for the royal family's needs, and Adisa held this honored position vehemently. Whenever the king needed meat, he summoned Adisa, who in return received vast portions of lands, invitation to palace celebrations, and a share of the tributes given to the king. One day, the king summoned Adisa and asked him to hunt 2 deers for a special feast to celebrate his 2 wives, the queens. When Adisa returned home, Mosi was eager to know why the king had summoned his father. Adisa explained to him that the king needed 2 deers for the queen's celebration. Why would the king specially ask for 2 deers? Mosi asked. You are just like your mother, always curious and eager to learn, Adisa smiled. The deer meat is a very sweet meat and rare in our part of the world. In fact, the last person to kill a deer in this village was my father, your grandfather. These deers are so fast and hard to catch. I believe the king wants to honor the queen specially, so we must get the 2 deers for him. We? Mosi asked. Who is going to hunt with you? And if killing a deer is rare, how do you plan to kill 2? You will come along with me this time. Don't worry, my son. The gods are with us, and the spirit of our ancestors will guide us, Adisa said. Mosi was pleased with his father's words. Although he had gone on many hunts with his father, Adisa usually preferred to hunt alone for the royal family. Mosi saw this as an opportunity to make his father proud. Ever since he learned about his mother's death, a part of him blamed himself. This guilt haunted him, and he always tried to please his father, Adisa. Adisa, on the other hand, never blamed his son, Mosi, for his wife's death. Instead, her death strengthened his love for Mosi, which is why he vowed never to remarry and focus on taking care of his son. The bond between them was so strong. Mosi learned everything from his father. They hunted together and they shared everything together. Their connection was more than just hunting. It was a deep emotional bond between father and son. After a few days of careful preparation, Adisa and Mosi set out to hunt for the king. They spent the first 2 days deep in the forest, encountering rabbits, snakes, antelopes, and even a fox. but they were only interested in finding a deer. On the third day, Adisa felt a strong intuition to head west, so they did. They walked until they reached a beautiful waterfall. The waterfall was a breathtaking sight, with water gleaming as it cascaded down the rocks. The serene environment made them decide to rest. Moments later, Adisa heard footsteps nearby. He jumped to his feet, and there they were, 2 deers drinking by the waterfall. Adisa quickly called Mosi's attention to the deers, and they decided to ambush them from both sides. Slowly, father and son approached the unsuspecting deers, and just as the deers sensed someone near, Adisa and Mosi struck each deer with their machetes. The deer fell unconsciously, blood gushing out of their wounds. Filled with so much joy, Adisa and Mosi carried the deer and headed home, one on each shoulder. They were energized by their success. As they neared home, Adisa felt a need to ease himself. They placed the deer down, and Adisa walked to a nearby tree. "Yay!" Adisa screamed suddenly. Mosi ran to his father, asking what was wrong. Adisa pointed to his left foot, where Mosi saw a dark spot. He looked around but couldn't find what had stung his father. Suddenly, Adisa collapsed, gasping for air. Mosi was so confused and terrified. The thought of losing his father overwhelmed him. He looked around and saw a gourd filled with water from the waterfall. He quickly grabbed it and tried to give it to his father. Adisa's body was hot, and then Mosi noticed a golden necklace in his father's hand. "Mosi, my son," Adisa muttered. "Father, please drink some water," Mosi pleaded. "Please drink." "Mosi, listen to me. My time is almost up." "No, don't say that." "Listen, son," Adisa interrupted. "Take this necklace. It has been passed down from generation to generation. Keep it safe and don't let anyone know about it. It will guide you, protect you, and bring fortune to you." Adisa handed the golden necklace to Mosi. "I am sorry, my son. I love you so," Adisa said, and then passed away in Mosi's hand. Realizing the reality, Mosi screamed in pain, tears streaming down his cheek. Adisa's death was a shocking and painful loss for everyone. Adisa has been a humble and benevolent man. He was loved by most of the villagers. He was mourned by everyone and given a befitting burial. Though Mosi was in deep pain, he found solace in the life his father lived and the honor the village gave him in his final moments. Mosi mourned his father for 3 good months. After this period of deep sorrow, he decided to continue his father's legacy. He had learned everything he needed to survive, and he also had the golden necklace his father had given to him, which was to guide, protect, and bring him good fortune. Mosi had never seen the necklace until the day his father died, and wondered what was so special about this necklace. On his first day of hunting, after his father's death, Mosi put on the necklace. To his surprise, he caught a big antelope. He sensed that the necklace might have helped him, but he still had doubts, thinking it might just be luck. The next time he went hunting without the necklace, he only caught rabbits. On his next outing, he wore the necklace again, and this time around he killed a buffalo. Gradually, Mosi began to believe in the necklace's special powers. His fame grew, and the villagers started saying, Mosi will be greater than his father. To support their claim, one day, Mosi went into the bush and killed a huge elephant. The catch was so heavy that he had to call for help from Kuoye, his friend and former protege, and 2 other hunters. When they returned to the village, the news spread like wildfire. No one had ever killed an elephant before, and this feat made Mosi even more popular and loved by the villagers. He decided to share the meat with everyone, leading to a grand feast in the village. Mosi became the most renowned hunter in Alamo and the surrounding areas. Young and old, great and small, sang his praises. He became a wealthy and influential hunter, a title he wore with pride and reverence. Then he decided it was time for him to marry. Many maidens hoped Mosi would choose them as his wife, but Mosi was only attracted to just one person, Abike, the daughter of the palm wine tapper. Abike's parents were poor, but she was undoubtedly one of the most beautiful maidens in Alamo village. Mosi visited Abike's parents and informed them of his decision to marry her. Abike's parents were overjoyed at this news, seeing it as an opportunity to end their poverty. They told Mosi to return in 7 days. Unfortunately, Abike was not interested in marrying Mosi. She claimed that she had someone else who had promised to marry her, and added that she couldn't marry Mosi because he was a stammerer. Abike's parents, however, were uninterested in her feelings. To them, the gods had given them this opportunity to become wealthy and respected in the village. So they insisted that she must marry Mosi, leaving her with no other choice. Days passed. Mosi and Abike eventually got married. To honor her parents' wishes, Abike pretended to love Mosi and fulfill her duties as his wife. Things went well until a year into their marriage, when Mosi began to have some strange nightmares. Dreams that were once filled with the rustling of leaves and the cry of the wind. Shadows crept into his sleep, their forms indistinct yet menacing. He dismissed them as remnants of the long cold season, but a growing unease ground at him. One night, he dreamt of a woman who resembled him and called him her son, warning him of the impending darkness to come. This dream reoccurred, and his mother's warning grew more intense each time. Mosi was so troubled by these dreams. He wished his mother could tell him what the impending darkness was, but he couldn't communicate with her in the dream. Disturbed and worried, he tried to distract himself by spending more time in the forest. Often, he wandered around uninterested in hunting, and when he did hunt, he no longer felt the joy he once felt. This change deeply affected Mosi, spreading like cancer into his marriage and other relationships. He rarely spoke to his wife. There was hardly any intimacy. He seldom spent time with friends, missed hunters' meetings, and sometimes even slept in the forest, leaving Abike all alone by herself. Abike grew fed up with these changes. A chasm opened between her and Mosi. A once shared heart, their home now echoed with unspoken words. Her eyes, once mirrored of his soul, now held a distant reflection. The vibrant tapestry of their love was fraying at the edges. Desperate, she decided to visit Kuoye, Mosi's friend and her former lover, who had promised to marry her before Mosi proposed. At Kuoye's house, Abike complained about how Mosi had neglected her and made her feel lonely. She begged Kuoye to talk to Mosi, believing that he could help her change her husband. Kuoye, on the other hand, pretended to be sorry for her. He assured Abike that he would talk to Mosi and that things would improve. But as soon as Abike left, Kuoye's deceptive face returned. He began scheming to take advantage of the rift in Mosi and Abike's marriage. Kuoye was a greedy and deceptive man. Once Mosi's protege, he had grown bitter towards Mosi's fame. Whenever he heard of Mosi's exploits, he pretended to celebrate him in the open, but he was always filled with envy and resentment inside. Kuoye was furious when he learned that Mosi was going to marry Abike, his secret lover. Now that Abike had shared her heart with him, he saw this as a perfect opportunity to take back what he believed Mosi had taken from him. A few days later, Kuoye sent for Abike. He welcomed her and told her that he had tried to talk to Mosi, but Mosi seems no longer interested in their marriage, which was why he had been distanced. This was a lie, but the unsuspecting Abike believed Kuoye and bursted into tears. Deceitfully, Kuoye embraced her, comforted her, and assured her that he would keep trying to make Mosi change his mind. Days passed and Mosi's troubling dreams continued. Though he tried to keep hunting, he lost his passion and became more distant from his wife. This further reinforced Abike's belief that Mosi was no longer interested in their marriage, as Kuoye had told her. Unfortunately, she didn't even bother to ask Mosi why he was so distant. As Mosi kept distancing himself, her loneliness grew, and she sought comfort in Kuoye, who had been deceitfully welcoming her and keeping her company. Kuoye promised her a better life, and the long-lost tenderness and affection between the old lovers rekindled. Abike started cheating with Kuoye, her husband's friend. Although Mosi was troubled, he continued to have big catches from his hunts and grew richer. Kuoye, on the other hand, was delighted to have Abike's back, yet his greed grew. Mosi's success was a thorn in his side. As a struggling hunter, he envied Mosi's fame and wealth. He promised Abike a better life and schemed to turn his situation around. One day, just after he and Abike had been intimate, Kuoye began to ask her questions no one had ever asked her before. Abike, Kuoye called. What is the secret behind your husband's success? Abike was so surprised by the question. Kuoye, why are you asking me this? I am just curious. So, there must be something behind Mosi's success. and I know he must have told you since you are his wife," Kuoye replied. "Well, I can assure you that there is nothing secretive about my husband's success. Mosi is just hardworking and skillful, and everyone knows that his family is endowed. That is why his lineage is blessed with great hunters," she said. "Oh, that's true. Mosi is very skillful and hardworking. His family is endowed too. Yet, I think there must be something behind his own renowned success," Kuoye insisted. Abike was getting annoyed. She felt uncomfortable talking about her husband with his friend who she was cheating with. "You keep saying something is behind his success. What exactly do you mean by that?" Abike asked, frowning. Sensing the annoyance in her voice, Kuoye pleaded, "I'm sorry, Abike, trust me. I am asking this question to make our lives better, my love. Just think, it could be, maybe a charm or..." "Stop right there. Don't dare say that. I am sure my husband doesn't use charm to attract success. If there were charms behind Mosi's success, then every hunter would have made charms to become successful too," Abike said firmly. "Don't be annoyed, my love. Yes, it's possible it's not a charm, but kindly think deeply. I am sure there must be something behind Mosi's success." Kuoye pressed on. "Kuoye, this is the last time I will say this. There is nothing behind my husband's success. I know my husband very well. Whenever he is about to go to hunt, he only goes with his hunting dog, his local gun, machete, and a golden necklace around his neck." "A golden necklace?" Kuoye asked, intrigued. "Yes, a golden necklace," Abike replied. "I have never seen him with a golden necklace before," Kuoye said. "He wears it only when he is about to go to hunt, and it is always beneath his hunting garments," Abike explained. "That must be the secret behind his success," Kuoye said, already scheming how to steal the golden necklace. "Abike," Kuoye called, "can I ask a favor from you?" "What is it?" Abike asked. "Can you bring me the golden necklace?" Kuoye said. Abike refused, but Kuoye told her that he just wanted to test it. He reminded her that if this was the secret behind Mosi's success, the golden necklace could also make him successful and give them a better life. Abike, swayed by his promises of a better life, agreed to steal the golden necklace. One day, when Mosi went to the village hunters meeting, Abike saw this as the perfect opportunity to steal the golden necklace. She ransacked the house until she found it and quickly took it to Kuoye, who was absent from the meeting. Then she rushed back home. When Mosi returned from the meeting, he prepared to hunt. He noticed the golden necklace was missing. He searched everywhere but couldn't find it. He asked his wife if she had seen it, but she lied, saying she hadn't. They searched for the golden necklace together, but it was futile. Mosi sat at home in pain, fearing the outcome of hunting without the golden necklace, his guide and protection. While Mosi stayed at home, Kuoye started hunting with the golden necklace. The necklace was a relic of ancient times, discovered by one of Mosi's ancestors in a forgotten cavern. It was a thing of beauty and promised of untold wealth. It brought immediate fortune to Kuoye. He started catching big animals he had never killed before, and gradually he became rich. Whenever he had a good catch, Kuoye made sure he shared with Mosi, thinking his little act of kindness would justify his wrong. Mosi's days at home made him realize the danger his disconnection from his wife had caused. During the day, he couldn't hunt. He sought for her comfort, her company, and intimacy with his wife, but she had become so distant, and coldness had crept into their once warm relationship. Mosi began to notice subtle changes in Abike's behavior. She was away from home too often and eventually started lying about where she had been. The golden necklace was like a siren song, luring Kuoye into the treacherous abyss. The initial flush of wealth brought a false sense of prosperity, but soon it became the guarded cage. Greed, a relentless tyrant, consumed him. He became paranoid and violent, and he decided to go a step further by urging Abike to end Mosi's life. One day, Abike lied that she wanted to visit her parents and wouldn't be back until the next day. Mosi gave her the permission, but instead of visiting her parents, she spent 2 days at Kuoye's house. When she returned, she pleaded with Mosi to forgive her for spending an extra day, claiming she missed her parents so much. A part of Mosi didn't believe her, so he confronted Abike, asking her to be honest about her movements. Abike assured him that she had only visited her parents. Amidst this growing suspicion, Mosi instructed her not to leave the house, vowing to visit her parents the next day to track her movements. Fear gripped Abike. She had lied about visiting her parents, and if Mosi went to their house, she would be exposed. Desperate, she decided to poison her husband. But instead of killing him outrightly, she added a special poison to his food that would make him suffer a slow death. The next day, Mosi woke up feeling different. He felt weak and paralyzed. The weakness lingered for days, and those days were the most terrible days Mosi had ever experienced. During his weekdays, Kuoye visited his house, and he and Abike made love right in front of him several times. One day, Kuoye came into Mosi's house wearing the golden necklace, making Mosi realize the betrayal of his friend and his wife. This led to Mosi's agonizing decline. The village, once proud of their champion, whispered about his downfall. Eventually, Mosi died. Word spread around the village that Mosi, the great hunter, had died after weeks of illness. The villagers mourned the loss of their greatest hunter, unaware of the darkness that had claimed him. Just 2 weeks after Mosi's death, Abike moved into Kuoye's house. This raised suspicion among the villagers, but Kuoye started spreading rumors that his friend had given him a last wish for him to take care of Abike. Abike and Kuoye lived lavishly, enjoying a lifestyle built on wickedness. One day, Kuoye caught a large black white goat and brought it home. He asked Abike to cook it, which she did. They both ate it and enjoyed the meat. But a few hours later, their stomach began to swell, protruding like that of a pregnant man and a woman. They screamed and cried for help, but no one was willing to help the stingy and suspicious duo. Their stomach kept swelling and they were in agonizing pain for 7 days. On the 7th day, the pain became unbearable and their screams forced the villagers to bring them out of the house. Kuoye and Abike confessed their evil deeds in detail and eventually met a horrific end. Their bodies, twisted and contorted, became a chilling testament of the curse of the golden necklace. Kuoye and Abike's tales of betrayal became a lesson to everyone. This story teaches us that wealth gained through dishonest means brings misfortune, and betrayal destroys trust and cooperation, which are essential for survival. We have come to the end of this story, but let's keep the conversation going. Who do you think should be blamed for how the marriage ended? Is it Abike's or Mosi's fault? And what do you think will happen to the golden necklace? If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to share it with your loved ones, subscribe to this channel for more exciting stories like this, and turn on notification button to get notified as soon as a new story is released. See you in my next one. Bye.